All right, this thing's over. Sunday Night Football ending in another blowout for the Cowboys. The only other time we started the opening line report early was another Cowboys Sunday night defeat of an NFC East opponent. So let's keep getting these guys on Sunday Night Football, and we'll be getting to bed a little bit sooner. Hope you guys were on the Cowboys in some way tonight. I am TommyFreezePops. This is the opening line report for Week 15 of the NFL season. And let's bring in our resident Cowboy fan, our man analytics capper, AC. We also got our resident Washington Commanders fan, Stu. But these guys are betting experts. That's more important, right? And let's go ahead and give AC the floor here to talk about his boys, because they looked awesome tonight. And they've looked awesome for a few weeks now. And look, Cowboys are going like this. Eagles are going like this, and I think the tide is starting to turn here in the NFC. AC, what do you say?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Hopefully the audio is coming in cleanly. But no, I'm excited as a Cowboys fan. I think I underrated this team heading into tonight. Although I was on the Cowboys -3.5, I didn't think it was going to be a blowout like this. A lot of it was due to, Philadelphia turnovers, especially in the red zone there for Philly. But the Cowboys have been beating up on bad teams all season long. And then they were, challenged by winning teams the last 2 weeks. Seattle last Thursday, and then Philadelphia tonight. So, I mean, morale is great in Dallas. Dak Prescott has definitely turned the corner with this West Coast offense. I think he is the front runner for MVP right now. Him and Purdy are 1A, 1B in my opinion. Philadelphia Eagles, even though they've lost the last 2 games against really, really, really good opponents in San Francisco and Dallas, they still own this division. They have a really, really easy schedule remainder of the way, and I expect them to potentially win out. If not, they're gonna just lose one game, maybe Seattle next week. But they have the Giants twice, I believe, and then Stu's Commanders. Whereas the Cowboys, they still have to go to Buffalo. They still have to go to Miami. They still have to play Detroit. So it's going to be a tough road there. So I still think the value on the division is the Eagles, but it's nice for the Cowboys to get a win like this for morale.
Yeah, and honestly, it's nice to have your team playing like this as you get closer and closer to the end of the season, because as we've seen in recent years and really over the course of the history of the NFL, when you're peaking at the right time, that's a good sign for the postseason. So, Stu, a quick thought on maybe the Eagles here before we get into next week's slate, because I know you were talking big in our group text about the Eagles and where you think they stand among the best in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Eagles, for me, if you've been watching this show, they've been pretty consistently like outside of my top 5 throughout the year. And it's not that they're a terrible team. It's just that I think they are a tough matchup for a lot of these excellent teams. And in the post-game conference, Nick Bosa last week said, hey, we laid out a game plan on how to beat the Eagles. Anyone else can use it going forward, right? We expect the Cowboys to use it. The Cowboys look pretty confident right there. If teams are going to continue to force Hurts to stay in the pocket right here, make him make plays. It hasn't been working out so well over these last couple of weeks. It's pretty clear when the Eagles can run the ball, when they can do their style of football, things work out very, very well. But when you make them uncomfortable, when you punch first, that's when things get a little bit weird. And for me, that's why I can't be a big supporter of a team come playoffs, right? Same reason I've been down on the Lions all year long. I don't believe in teams that can't recover when they get punched in the face. Give me Josh Allen 10 out of 10 times. He'll throw an interception, and he'll also give you a throw that nobody else in the NFL can make. I'll take that.
Yeah, look, don't get me started on the Lions. We're going to get to them a little bit later. I, again, was stupid as it relates to the Lions, and it really is on me at this point. But let's talk about the team of the night. That's the Dallas Cowboys. They are 2.5-point dogs at last look heading to Buffalo. I'm going to have to check and see if that is different after what we saw happen in Kansas City today and Dallas tonight. That was right before Sunday Night Football. So I'll give that a check as we get into our analysis here of the lines. We have the Bills on the money line at -130, the Cowboys at +110, and a total of 49. So again, I'm going to go check that while you guys get into it here. I have to imagine that this is going to get close to a pick, given what we saw with Dallas today and how public of a team they generally are. I like the over just at first glance. Both of these offenses have been fantastic. The Bills seem to be in a bunch of high-scoring games this season. So, AC, let's give you the floor here first. What would you do with this game if you had to bet on it tonight?
Yeah, this is a tough game. You guys already know my principles. I don't like short favorites, especially at home. But I don't know if I could back the Dallas. There's just no value in my opinion. They've won now 5 straight. I think they've only punted once in 3 games. I mean, it's absurd how great this offense is rolling right now. So, of course, all the momentum, all the bets, all the public money will be on Dallas as the trendy dog. So I'm definitely going to stay away with it. Stay away from the game in terms of the side. And in regards to the total, Tom, it's interesting because I think it's going to be really contingent on the weather there, right? We're getting to mid-December there, and if it's windy, rainy, snowy, if it's bad weather, I don't know if I could play the over there. So it's something I have to monitor. At first glance, 48.5 is kind of like an overplay. But again, I'm going to wait until the weather reports come out.
Yeah, that's really sharp to point out this time of year. I mean, this week was obviously a good example. And hey, it's also a good example to always remember that weather goes both ways, right? Everyone crossed out that Ravens-Rams game today, right? Oh, wind, terrible, all that stuff. And look what happened. So I agree with you. I'm glad you pointed that out. When it comes to December, you need to be looking at stuff like that. No matter what, no matter how easy a number may look, there's always going to be a reason for that. So I'm glad you pointed that out. I do tend to agree, though. I lean the direction of the over in this game. I mean, the Buffalo defense, ever since, they got those linebacker injuries, they have the cornerback injuries, they just haven't been as strong on the defensive end. Dallas obviously figured it out going into the bye week. They're aggressively throwing the ball. These are 2 top 3 pass rate over expectation teams, which means I'm expecting a very high pace in this game. I don't think either of these teams are going to mess around too much establishing the run. So for me, that does lean to more of an over game. I'm curious what the updated price is. I think I will be interested in Buffalo. I backed Buffalo this week at a good price as well against the Chiefs. And I think just rolling with the team that kind of desperately needs these wins is the way to go. And hey, we just talked about all these tough matchups for the Eagles. Well, now the Cowboys have had a couple tough matchups in a row as well. So maybe some fatigue might start to be setting in there.
So we see this at a lot of books. We see this with DraftKings as well. When a team's playing on Sunday night, generally they take that game down for the following week until things get settled, injuries can happen, etc. So the line is still not updated at DraftKings. It's currently off the board. So as the show goes along, we will see where that lands. And typically by this time in the game, you'll already see the line for next week with a team playing on Sunday night. So I'm very curious to see what's happening, where the money's going, and what this is going to look like by the end of this broadcast, because I'm sure we'll see it at some point here in the next 30 minutes or so. But let's get into the next game here. Another team that was playing on Sunday night, the Eagles, 4.5-point favorites. They are in Seattle, so home favorites, road favorites, I should say. Money line, Eagles minus 205. Seattle plus 170 and the total at 47. Obviously, the 49ers did what they did to Seattle today, but Seattle hung around. Drew Lock looked like he wasn't afraid out there. He did some things. If you look at the score and you didn't actually watch that game, you'd think that San Francisco kind of worked Seattle, but it was a much closer game than the score indicated. And look, the Eagles are reeling right now. So this is kind of a must win for their locker room in a way. So, I'm kind of torn on where to go with this game because Seattle has talent and they play good teams tough. So, Stu, why don't you kick us off here as the resident Eagles hater? Are you able to put your objective hat on here and tell us what you think heading into Seattle next week?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I do like the Eagles in this one. What I just said about them a minute ago, I think if a team can come in and punch them in the face, if they can make them uncomfortable, if you can threaten them with your offensive versatility, then that's where I don't support the Eagles. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case here, especially after the Eagles have gone back to back to back with these offensive juggernauts. The one thing that does worry me is pretty simple. Seattle has a good rush defense, right? They've been building on that all year. They made the trade with the Giants at the deadline to expand on that even more. And like I said, I am more comfortable when Philly can run on a team. So Seattle, yes, if you look at recent game logs, Christian McCaffrey has had some good games, but he's really the only one. And I think he's the exception to the rule, right? Shanahan's the best offensive game planner in the league. I think the San Francisco 49ers can pretty comfortably run on anyone. I would say the Eagles have been in that same category for a decent amount of the year, but let's also look at the offensive line injuries, right? We had that occur during this game as well. So I think monitoring the Eagles offensive line is going to be important. I'm hoping we get some, healthy updates. And in that case, I do think I'll be supporting the Eagles in this one. Just, I don't think Seattle can make them uncomfortable in this game with Drew Lock as the quarterback.
Yeah, I'll be on Philadelphia as well in this game. Not only is it a bounce back spot against with a team that just came off 2 really bad losses, basically on like national TV, right? So everyone's going to remember the Eagles not performing well back-to-back weeks. But Seattle, I honestly, I just want to see a Philadelphia offense that just controls the game, runs the ball. So I kind of like the Philadelphia to cover the number and the under. Like I want a game where they just win a game like 20-0. That's when Philadelphia, in my opinion, are at their best. It's not when they're trying to score 30 or 40 points. I think it's when they control the clock, when they don't turn the ball over and really lean on that offensive line. Stu did mention they are a little dinged up on the O-line, but I mean that O-line even at 80% is going to dominate most teams in this league. So just put the pressure on Seattle, get up early instead of going down early against the Niners and the Cowboys. Get up 7-0, get up 10-3, something like that. Make Seattle have to force the action. I think that's when Philadelphia is going to be at their best. So I'm gonna really pay attention to the halftime score. Like in this game, I think we kind of insinuated it last week. Philadelphia is not built to come back. So I bet a lot of people at halftime with that score was chasing Philadelphia for the second half. I actually like Dallas, not because Dallas is a team, but I just don't think Philadelphia has the offense to come back by 2 or 3 scores. They are more of a front-running team, and nothing wrong with that. But I just want them to lean in and really own up to that against an inferior opponent like Seattle.
Yeah, it's one of those teams where they have so much talent and they've won so much over the last couple of years. And as we've moved along this season, we've just seen the holes. And I think when you watch a team enough in big spots, you just start to notice things more and more. So I think that the betting community is getting smarter about betting the Eagles. And obviously the opponents are starting to figure out how to beat these guys. So this is another game that is currently not available on DraftKings because, look, they were just on TV. A crazy thing happened. They got blown out. So that market could change quite a bit as well. So we'll keep an eye on that one. A team that won an insane game today, the Baltimore Ravens, to keep pace as the top seed in the AFC. They are 3.5-point favorites heading to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence gutting it through that ankle injury. And look, credit to him for playing, but wow, what a decision by Doug Peterson to put him out there. And a couple of interesting Doug Peterson decisions in this game. Really trusting the math there, and a lot of people questioning that down the stretch. But we have 2 of the best teams in the AFC squaring off. Maybe Trevor will be more healthy heading into this game. You can get the Ravens at -185, the Jaguars as a home dog at +154, and a total of 43.5. Another game where I like the over just at first glance. And I also think I like the Ravens to cover that 3.5. I just think coming off of that crazy win against the Rams, they're going to have a ton of confidence. And this Jaguars team has not looked as dominant as it did in that middle of the season stretch here the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Kirk banged up, Trevor Lawrence banged up. So Jaguars not the same team right now. I think the Ravens cover this 3.5. I think it's going to go over the 43.5 because these teams put up points. AC, what say you?
Yeah, I think Doug Peterson made the wrong choice. I know Trevor Lawrence came away unscathed, but this is a league where there's only 17 games, and you want to zero in the most important games. To come back against one of the best defense in the league, I thought it was a really big risk. Thankfully, he didn't get hurt. I mean, it's a high ankle sprain. You can easily sprain that ankle again. But this is a kitchen sink game for Jacksonville. They're going to be at home. They're going to be the underdog here. And before the last 2 weeks, they were 7-1 against the spread, the best team against the spread in the league. Now they've lost the last two outright, and they're facing a team that not many people, in my opinion, especially here in Texas. Well, I'm in New York tonight, but in Texas, for the most part, they're not talking about the Ravens. They're talking about the Chiefs. They're talking about Jacksonville, even Buffalo. But the Ravens often get overlooked, and I think Lamar Jackson is quietly having an awesome season himself. I think the value here is on Jacksonville because I think they're going to want this more, in my opinion. And Baltimore is coming off a really, really lucky win. I know they deserved it. I know it was an awesome punt return in overtime, but I think the Rams gave away that game, and I think things usually even out. I think so. Jacksonville, I think, is 7-3, right, and ATS, and then Baltimore, first place in the West, but they're first place in the AFC, but they're only 6-4 against the spread, so they're not the best team when it comes to covering numbers. So, in my opinion, I think the value here is on Jacksonville at home.
Yeah, I think if you historically just bet against teams that won the way the Ravens won the next week, you'd have a lot of success, right? Because if you watch that game, I mean, you were kind of nice about it. The Ravens didn't deserve to win, and I had the Ravens money line as the final piece in a couple parlays. Like, I was actively rooting for that, and at no point did they really deserve to win that game, and they're supposed to be a substantially better team than the Rams. So I do think that maybe won't show up in the box score. Maybe not enough people watched enough of that game, and we'll just remember the end result. That being said, even as someone that doesn't like to, back teams that won like that, I still do think there's an edge on the Ravens right here. I still don't think the market is giving them enough respect. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that I've been pretty low on Jacksonville all year. I've had a lot of success betting against them, including this week with the Browns, right? I saw AC was on that as well, which definitely made me happy right there. I was shocked to see Lawrence, right? I was absolutely shocked to see him coming out and starting that game. And he did better than expected, but the end of the day, now we have an upgrade in the matchup right here. And for me, it's pretty simple. I'll back Jacksonville when they have the coaching edge over other teams. But for me, when they're in either a neutral ground or a team where they might even be out-coached, right, going up against one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, I'm not as impressed. Jacksonville is really good at manipulating opposing linebackers and opposing safeties. They have a lot of creative skill position groups. Evan Ingram can do a lot of different things out of the slot. Calvin Ridley is a pretty good route runner, and you obviously mentioned Christian Kirk as well. They manipulate a lot of linebackers and safeties and take advantage of that in short yardage situations. That's not going to be a possibility against Baltimore because they're phenomenal in those places. One of the best linebacker cores in the league. Kyle Hamilton, a rookie, maybe the best safety in the league. Maybe not yet, but he's pretty close to that already. So for me, I think this Baltimore team is actually very well built to stop Jacksonville on offense, and I think Baltimore keeps rolling on offense themselves. So I've got to take the Ravens in this one.
So we do have an update to the Cowboys line at Buffalo. It's at +1.5. So it's already moved a point here, and I think it's going to keep coming down as people react to what they saw on Sunday Night Football. So I'm going to keep monitoring this as the broadcast goes along here, and I'll keep you guys updated on what happens with that Philly line once it becomes available again on DraftKings Sportsbook. So let's take a look at a game in Detroit for Week 15. The Denver Broncos +4 money line Lions at -192. You can get Denver at +160 and the total of 47. The Lions are a team that I have screamed about on this broadcast all season long. This week's edition of Me versus the Lions was I had to start Goff in fantasy because he's my backup. I didn't trust Trevor Lawrence with the ankle injury coming back, so I put Goff in there, and he scored 7 points for me, while Lawrence had 20 on my bench. So the Lions, again, even when I'm not betting on them, are screwing me from a fantasy perspective. I hate the Detroit Lions. They are frauds. Every time we think they're back, they do this. And I know that they had the game against the Bears a few weeks ago where they probably should have lost, and they ended up coming back, and we all gave them credit for the comeback. And I was here saying, why are we giving them credit for being down against the Bears? And now look what the Bears did to them today. So I hate the Lions. I'm never going to bet on them. They might screw me in fantasy for other reasons or whatever. You guys can have the Lions. I'm not going to be a part of that. The Broncos, on the other hand, have been really impressive for what we thought this team was going to be. They've won 6 of the last 7, and now they head to Detroit here, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs here in that tough AFC playoff picture. Just a lot of teams around the same record. And I just think Denver has a good defense, and they've figured out how to make Russell Wilson work. So, AC, it looks like you're going to be backing the Lions here. I'm curious why, because they're frauds.
Tom, this is the week bet the Lions. I promise.
Oh, this is the week.
This is the week. I was on the Bears today, so you should have texted me. I would have told you the late. Actually, you didn't bet the Bears. You were on golf. No, this is the Lions. Although they're in the NFC North, they are a run and gun, indoor dome turf type of team. When they play in Chicago, when they play in Green Bay, like those are really bad spots for them. But now they're back home against the Denver, Broncos, who are on fire, like you mentioned. This is a great sell high spot for Denver and a great buy low spot for Detroit Lions, who are coming off an embarrassing loss outright to the Bears. They actually should have gone 0-2 against Chicago this season, but 1-1. Now they're back home and they're still in it. I know it's hard to back a team that sometimes doesn't make the best decisions, sometimes turns the ball over too much, and sometimes the defense doesn't show up. But against the Denver Broncos, who are not built for the turf indoor field like this, I just think it's a great spot for Detroit to really take advantage and really, I would say, pull away from this game. So if you don't want to touch the -4 on Detroit, go something with like the team total over, because I know Denver's defense has been playing pretty well. I think Detroit's going to have a lot of things up their sleeve in this game.
Yeah, AC just killed that handicap right there. I mean, you brought up a lot of good points. For me, this is going to be a really tough one. I'm going to be thinking about this one. I'm going to be very curious where the market moves as well, because my initial thought would be obviously people would want to support Denver. They're so hot right now. But I mean, AC's absolutely right. Like, you want this Detroit team in these comfortable circumstances. It's almost the same thing with the Bills for a while, where you think of them as like the outdoor team. It's like, no, I don't want Josh Allen in the snow. I want him in South Beach, right, in 80-degree weather, where he could throw the ball 40 yards down the field. I feel the same thing about here. This isn't actually a gritty team. The Lions are not an outdoor, we want that snow. They want to throw the ball. They want to play their finesse game. So I agree with that. I think the biggest thing is, man, Denver's been so good to me so far this year. I mean, this defense, man, I could not believe the total today. I truly couldn't. 44.5 was my biggest bet of the season so far on a side or a total, and it moved to 45. I'm reaching out to every smart person I know, like, please argue with me. Give me why you'd bet the over right here, and I wasn't getting anything, and the line was moving against me still. So what that tells me, if I'm really struggling so hard to find the pro position, I think the market is simply just underrating this Denver defense right now, and I think this total, once again, is kind of reflecting the same thing. Obviously, Detroit is a couple tiers above what we just saw from the Chargers, but guess what? They can do a kind of similar thing where you negate the number one target. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Keenan Allen are not so dissimilar, right? If you eliminate Amon-Ra St. Brown, you make the Josh Reynolds of the world beat you, then suddenly Denver's defense gives them a really good shot to win this game. And guess what? They're turnover magicians, right? They're forcing turnovers at a crazy rate so far this year. So it's going to be a close one. I think this 4 spread is really fair. I mean, I don't know if it's all the Denver money on my mind right now with Easton Stick coming in. I mean, I hit Denver like 5 times live today, so they really did help me out a lot. But it's kind of hard to go against the way that defense is playing right now.
Yeah, not betting the Broncos live when Easton Stick had his first drive, like his first time taking a snap. I should have just been like, well, I'm going to go into my 401k. I'm going to take out about 80% of it here, and I'm going to bet Denver live, because Easton Stick might be the worst quarterback I've seen since Nathan Peterman. I mean, he's really bad. They got to figure something out if Herbert's going to miss real time. What do you think about Easton Stick here, Stu? Quick thought.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's had a couple of years to learn the system at least. So, I mean, if that's
He's
one
awful.
thing you care about, yeah, he's terrible. Well, the one thing I want to say is I think it can be a teachable moment because we were kind of laughing with what you said, take out the 401k. My advice would be don't be scared of big numbers, right? When you see Easton Stick enter the game and you see a minus 400 money line, it depends on your book. I'm going to max my limit on that, no matter what it is. If I have the account balance to sustain it, right, I know at a 10-point lead right now, they're 14-point favorites. I know they're going to win this game, and I know this price is not reflecting that it's Easton Stick. It's still a Justin Herbert price. So I know a lot of people would be like, well, I'll just skip it at this point. But no, use me as an example. I turned my day around today, right? Single-handedly by hitting the Broncos over and over again, the live unders, the alt lines, the money lines, because you don't get chances like that very often. You got to take advantage of when you see Easton Stick, okay? That's my advice for that.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, and this is a little bit of a tangent, Tommy, so I apologize in advance. But
no, go ahead. I was about to tee you up.
When you see lines like minus 300, minus 400, minus 500, it doesn't mean to not bet it. Stu mentioned it. Minus 400, although it is juicy, you're getting great value because you can almost guarantee with the quarterback situation, the team situation, the coaching situation in that game that the Chargers were not going to win. So I just wanted to get on my soapbox for a little bit. Minus 400 or minus 350 doesn't mean you shouldn't bet it. I don't do it very often, but if you see opportunities like what Stu saw today, it's not like he was scared from those large numbers. So minus 400 to Stu, it might have been minus 2,000, right? So he's getting great $16 or whatever, 1,600, more value there in his head. So definitely do not be scared of the large numbers.
I was going to say that the Easton Stick performance was really bad, but was it as bad as what we saw in Las Vegas today with Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins and Aiden O'Connell? Good God, that was an atrocious game of football. I cannot believe that happened in the year of our Lord 2023. All right, let's take AC, go ahead.
No, I thought the 6-0 game with your team was bad.
Right.
The game today was obviously twice as bad. 3-0 it's embarrassing to be honest.
And it took until the 2-minute warning for them to kick that field goal. I mean, I honestly thought we were going to get a 0-0 tie heading into overtime. I was kind of rooting for it, but instead we landed a 3-0 victory. Congratulations to them, I guess. Both of those coaches and all of those players, a fine or some type for making us sit through that. All right. We have a battle of the Bays here. The Buccaneers plus 3.5 heading to Green Bay. No money line was available for this game on DraftKings, and the total is 42.5. So I'll go ahead and take a look and see if they have updated that. But at the moment, we're going to look at this as a Tampa plus 3.5 underdog heading to Green Bay. And the money lines will be available when they are available. So this game is on the slate here because Green Bay has looked good. And that's why they're on the marquee here. And they're hosting a Tampa team that is in contention to win that NFC South. Despite how bad that division is, Tampa is in the hunt here. So the battle of the Bays matters for us heading into week 15. So Stu, why don't we give you the floor here and you tell us why you are going to bet on either side of this, whether it's going to be the Bucs as underdogs or are you going to believe in the Packers and what they've shown us the last few weeks?
Yeah, I'm going to believe in the Packers. And what I'm actually really going to hope is I hope the Packers are not as impressive as people think they are, and they kind of barely get this win in primetime tomorrow. So suddenly the confidence factor, the glamour of betting on them isn't quite there. And we get this number to even out at that 3. I think the 3 is my target buy number right here. And I do think we'll see it at some point tonight. Now, if you're in the thought group that they're going to actually destroy Tommy Cutlets tomorrow in primetime, then you want to bet this right now. But for me personally, I think that game will actually be a bit more anticlimactic than people think. I think it'll be a little bit more boring, more of an under game, and they kind of squeak through with the win. So for me, I like Green Bay on the 3. It's pretty simple. Tampa is a very zone-heavy, subpar defense, right? They're going to sit back, they're going to be conservative, and they don't even really have the talent to kind of force these turnovers at a super high rate unless they're playing legitimately terrible terrible team like the Falcons who gift you a turnover to a game.
Yeah.
And while that is very nice of them, I don't expect Green Bay to do the same thing right here. I think Green Bay can win this in a close manner where they grind you out with the running game, which they've been willing to do no matter how inefficient A.J. Dillon is, or Jordan Love can continue to work down the field, right? And I've been very impressed with what I've seen so far. This offense is trending in the right direction. It's two teams moving in opposite directions. If you've watched any Tampa Bay game recently, you have not been impressed. I still believe this is the worst coach team in football. I think Baker Mayfield's an underrated quarterback at this point in time, and I do think they have some underrated players on that team. I don't think they're ever going to be stopped from being held down by Todd Bowles, though. Just keep running it on first and second down. Bring those safeties back. Don't blitz too much. Let them march down the field. Bend, but don't break. That doesn't really work as well when you don't have like Tom Brady there, helping you out with an easy, free cheat code touchdown. So I'm not a believer in the Bucs. I would like to buy on Green Bay. I'm hoping we get a 3, but I'll probably support them at 3.5 if that's not an option.
Yeah, Stu, you and I are working. It's clear that you and I have worked for a really long time because we're starting to sound really similar to each other because you're starting to say stuff like I say and I say some of your stuff. One thing that Stu said, these are two teams moving in opposite directions. The Green Bay Packers have won 3 straight, should have been 4 straight. That got jobbed in the Pittsburgh Steelers game a month ago. But Jordan Love, in my opinion, probably is the most improved quarterback in the NFL from week 1 to today. He's made strides not only individually, but he's a lot more comfortable in that scheme, and he's a lot more comfortable with Coach, LaFleur. So I like the Packers as well in this. I think this is probably my favorite read out of the 5 that we're speaking about tonight. Tampa Bay, although they're an outdoor team, we talked about it earlier, they're not really a weather team, right? They're in Florida. It's 80 degrees year round. If they go up to Green Bay and it's cold and it's windy, that team isn't built for that. Even with Tom Brady, that team wasn't built to win in the cold, in my opinion. Now with Baker Mayfield and inferior, teammates, I think Green Bay is going to come out. I like Green Bay first half a lot in this game because I think they're going to come out and really punch Tampa Bay in the mouth before Tampa Bay even realizes they're in Lambeau Field. And then maybe Baker has like a magical drive to backdoor it, towards the end or something like that. But I like Green Bay to kind of dominate this game throughout. So whether you like first half, full game, whatever the case may be, I do like Green Bay. I do like, Jordan Love is not only is he improved as a passer, but I think they've also expanded the playbook. So it's become a lot more creative as opposed to the first few weeks where we just saw him, similar to what Tampa does, run on first and second down, and then maybe a wide receiver screen on third down. Now they're doing a lot more, motion. They're doing a lot more play action. I think Green Bay is in a really good spot, and I think potentially they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they're heading in that direction. They have so many good young players that are just rounding into form in front of our eyes. So it's been fun to watch them become this team throughout the season because it definitely did not look like this the first 3-4 weeks of the year. That is for sure. Now let's hit a quick one here at the end because both of these teams are 7-5 by some, magic that doesn't make sense to me. The Steelers have to be the worst 7-5 team in the history of football. They are 2.5-point dogs heading to the Gardner Minshew-led Indianapolis Colts. You can get the Colts on the money line at -130, the Steelers at +110, and a total of 42.5. I have no idea what to make of this game or either of these teams. Who wants to go first here? And again, let's make this quick because we're only talking about this because they're both 7-5. I don't really want to even watch this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong take on this one. For me, I really can't do Pittsburgh right now. That's the honest truth. I can't. Like, the play calling is so bad. The quarterback play is so bad. I mean, obviously, it's not like the Pickett to Trubisky drop off is huge. I've been obviously a hater on the Steelers all season long. And as everyone in the world will point out, they have the magic beans, right? They figure it out. They lose every game. They're outgained in yardage, and somehow they pull out the victory. The problem is, I mean, Indianapolis is a really well-coached team. They're doing a lot with a little. I think Steichen should be a guy that's in the conversation, at least for Coach of the Year. You lose your quarterback, it would be very easy to give up, but they're sticking right with it. They're fighting. For me, the problem is, can you establish the run against Pittsburgh? Is Zach Moss kind of enough? He obviously had it going early on in the season. For me, I think the best bet in this game is really simple. I think it's the under. I know Indianapolis has been involved in some of these higher scoring games, and for that reason, I think we'll get a better price a little bit later in the week. I don't think you have to be in a rush to bet it whatsoever, but at the end of the day, I don't see either of these teams being able to sustain drives, and I think people might be a little bit tricked by seeing Pittsburgh score in primetime. No offense, Tommy, but the Patriots moving the ball against them doesn't do anything to me, whether it's a good
literally none taken.
it's nothing. So that performance didn't move the line for me at all. An under would be what I would be looking for here.
Yes, Stu, you and I agree on this one. I think the under is a smart play. I think the Steelers defense is going to shut down the Colts offense, probably force one or two turnovers. The scary part of the under, though, is Pittsburgh's defense might even score a touchdown, right? Which is scary, but their offense is dreadful, man. Whether it's Trubisky or Pickett, or it doesn't even matter. Honestly, they should just run Wildcat, right, with Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. Like, I think that would be a better offense that they can build around, as opposed to their offensive, quarterback. I think they had a 4th and 1, right? They have a 4th and 1, and then Mitch throws it 45 yards down the field, and the game was over. Like,
I'm so mad about that, by the way. Like, can I just can I rant about that for a second?
You're
right there for you, Pittsburgh.
A 7-year veteran, like you should have these, football IQ. You should have this awareness, and I don't know, like, whether it's coaching or whether it's just innate, you can't be coaching him. I agree with Stu. There's no way you can back Pittsburgh moving forward, because they've been the luckiest 7-5 team potentially of all time. And then, the Colts. I mean, the Colts they're a hard team to read, because their talent, in my opinion, is better than what they've shown so far, and especially defensively. So I think I like the under in this one.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers, come on. Can you win that game, please? The Patriots want to lose now. We all got around the campfire and decided, okay, we're gonna be okay with the losing because we want the draft pick. And then the Steelers go out and do that on 4th down. 4th and short, guys. Run the ball. Get the first down. Trubisky has some legs, too. I was like, oh, Trubisky will run some sort of naked boot and get this first. No, he threw the ball 40 yards down the field. All right. Had to get that off my chest. AC, before we let you go, quick thought on what you saw at the end of the Chiefs game here. I saw you tweeting a little bit about it and their reaction post-game, whatever you got on the KC debacle there at the end. Really fun game. One of the coolest football plays I've ever seen. It's too bad it got called back, but he was offsides. That's what happens.
Yeah, I guess I'll first caveat by saying I'm a Patrick Mahomes fan. I think he's the best quarterback in the league, and he has the potential to surpass Brady. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because they're going to end up going to the head-to-head matchup, and Brady beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. That's what it's going to come down to in the end. But he is the best quarterback in the league today, and potentially for the next 10 years. He's that great. And he himself, he and the team, the franchise, Andy Reid, they've been on the fortunate side of so many calls during this run. It just really, disturbed me, if you will, the amount of complaining and whining after this game. But yeah, it was a great play. And honestly, if you guys play like flag football, like high level flag football, you see that stuff all the time. And I know flag is not the same as tackle football, and it's not the same as NFL speed. But there are so many opportunities like that I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, to be honest. But it was a great play, just didn't work out. And it's not like the game ended right there. I think they still had 2 more downs, right, to actually right the wrong. And you can't blame it on a call. You had chances to make plays there, and they didn't. So
I think you're going to start to see stuff like that more because of what we just saw. I mean, that was almost perfectly executed. It was almost like it was planned. Kelsey turned and he made a perfect pass to the guy running right up the sideline. And then obviously what happened. Stu, quick thought before we let AC go.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, hey, Keenan Allen had that play for the Chargers as well. He's not getting nearly as much credit. People are calling it like the best play of all time. I was like, Keenan Allen did it like 2 weeks ago, guys. Like,
but this was a touchdown.
Yeah,
That's the
no, I
difference.
agree. But my take is very contrarian. I like it. If I were a Chiefs fan, I would like it. I want my quarterback to go out there and want to die for his team. You're mad. I get it. But I've never seen that much emotion out of Patrick Mahomes. What tells me is this team still believes they're a Super Bowl contender and they're not getting the results they want, and it's pissing them off. And for me, that I have absolutely zero problems with that. I'd much rather see that than the trend we're seeing in recent years of guys getting paid and looking disinterested, right? That's my biggest worry as a fan. So for me, seeing your guy go out there, and yeah, of course, to the rest of the league, it's going to look silly when you complain about things when you're being reffed the way you are. It's the same thing with Tom Brady. But guess what? When you're living that life, when you're on cloud nine, you're not feeling that. You're not looking around and going, well, did we really deserve to not get that offside? No, you're playing what's called to you. And obviously they've gotten used to a certain level. I'm not saying it's an excuse that call got fucked up. They were clearly wrong here, but it is what it is. I have no problems with them getting extremely mad. People are criticizing them. The other thing that I've seen a lot too is, well, this is the first time Patrick Mahomes is facing any adversity in his career. That is absolutely not true. It is impossible to win a Super Bowl without facing adversity, point blank. We don't have to go any further in that conversation. He's won a Super Bowl before. So to sit here and say how many years
on a bum leg,
yeah, that this is the first time he's ever faced adversity is ridiculous. It's a small hiccup. We're going to forget about this in a couple weeks. I like the energy. That's just my take, though.
Both Super Bowls he won, he was injured in that season, played through the injury in his most recent one. And I believe he missed 4 games the year that they won his first Super Bowl. And yeah, he's obviously dealt with adversity. They lost in multiple AFC championship games, and they got blown out in a Super Bowl against Tom Brady. So yeah, that's just an insane statement to make. But AC, thank you so much as always. We will see you here next Sunday. Thank you, sir. All right, Stu, it is time for your early prop leans heading into week 15. You've been crushing it this season. Help the people crush it as well. What do you got?
Yeah, one of the easiest ways we've made money so far has been fading that sign directly behind me right here. We're going to be doing it once again. Matthew Stafford passing yards, baby. That will be the first look of the week. No matter what that line is, it's not going to be high enough. And the reason I know that is because in back-to-back weeks against quarterbacks like Dak Prescott, against quarterbacks like Tua, the line has still been considerably lower than where it should have been. It's been in the 260s to open and closing in the 280s. For those elite high-end quarterbacks, a guy like Stafford, I have a very hard time seeing him open over that 275 mark. Anything under 275 is a buy for me. I love it. Stafford is going to pass all over us next week. And I think Kyren Williams will have a good game as well. It's just simply you want to take the path of least resistance. This Washington secondary is absolutely awful. They're giving up the most yards to any quarterback in the league over the last 5 weeks, and they're giving up the most wide receiver 1 yards in the league to opposing wide receiver 1s. The biggest reason I'm telling you Stafford and not the wide receiver 1 is because, hey, our guy Puka, he's making an argument that he should be in that conversation. And obviously Cooper Kupp is the wide receiver 1, but snaps, right? He's not playing his full alignment of snaps right now with some injury stuff. So I'd rather not go between 2 very good wide receivers. I'd rather just back the quarterback that's going to be thrown into all of them. Beyond that, this is a little bit of an interesting one. I like Russell Wilson, his rushing, but what I really like is his longest rush. That's what I'm going to be going with. The reason I go to a category like longest rush is because it's the efficiency versus volume argument. If you have high volume, if you have a lot of designed runs, then you want as many cracks as possible. Russell Wilson isn't getting that many design runs anymore. You're likely only going to see 1 or 2, maybe on a 3rd down, right? Maybe on a 3rd and 1, a little trick play. So for me, what we're really taking advantage of is scrambles, right? And Detroit is very good at forcing quarterbacks out the pocket, but they're not actually that good at sacking the quarterback. They have a good pressure rate, but they have pretty median sack numbers. So they're good at forcing you out the pocket. And the other thing is they play heavy man coverage, which is obviously linked to those upticks in quarterback rushing yards. So for me, longest rush for Russell Wilson will definitely be on the agenda. If you don't have that in your sports book, then just regular rushing yards will work as well. I do think he will go over both of them. There's just a little bit more of an edge to one. Finally, one of my favorite spots of the week. I already know. I'm going to tell you a story. It's exactly how it's going to go. I've been down this road a couple of times this year. TJ Hawkinson is going to open his receptions line, whatever it is. It's going to be too low. You're going to bet it as soon as it comes out. And then a couple thousand other people are going to bet it at a number higher. It's going to get bet up 1. It happens every other time. It'll open at 4.5 and it'll get bet up to 5.5, right? It'll open at 5.5 plus 100 and it'll close at minus 190. I'm going to get on that opening line as soon as possible. Mullins, throughout his career, has absolutely peppered the tight end position. We remember all those George Kittle fantasy explosion games. You can thank him and garbage time for that. I think we see the same thing right here. Look what happened. I had TJ Hawkinson receptions. I needed just 5. We had nothing all game with Joshua Dobbs. Then my hero, Nick Mullins, comes in the game and saves the bet. I will be on that opening line next week. They always open it too low. Let's cash once again on TJ Hawkinson.
I think that's the first time anyone in a long time has said my hero, Nick Mullins. So I just want to make sure that we highlight that before we go. All right, that is another edition in the books of the opening line report. Make sure you guys go ahead and download the OddsTrader App Store, Google Play Store, oddstrader.com. It is the best in class sports betting predictive AI in the business. If you want to win sports betting bets, come to our app, come to our website, use that information, listen to smart people like Stu, use his information, and go with your gut on a lot of this stuff too. Mix it all together and place your bets accordingly. And I can guarantee you, if you're not going to be making money, you're at least going to be having more fun because you've done the research, you're in it, and you're locked in. And more often than not, if you're doing what we're telling you to do with this app and listening to smart people, you are going to do pretty well. The app speaks for itself. The record is there. So go ahead, download OddsTrader today, and come back to us next Sunday as we will be back with the Week 16. I can't even believe we're saying that already. The season has flown by. Week 16 opening line report right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. I'm Tommy FreezePops. That's Monotone Football. We will see you next Sunday night.